even see the time. Me, Miss Brenda, our co-host from UK, we both are so excited that we have a very special guest from right away from Brazil. You know, I love Brazil because it's a place where you will get wonderful chocolates. Wonderful chocolates. And when I went to Belgium, I got to see them and we had it. We tested it. It's an amazing place. And people there are so sweet like that, chocolates. So we have today a wonderful guest, music legend, music director, music conductor, entrepreneur, and change maker. And you know, we are so proud to say that we are having a brand ambassador for BMW, Rolex. Oh my God, what not? So I'm so honored. We are so honored. We International Institute of Influencers are amazingly honored today to have such an amazing personality who just believes in life, who just believes in music. And you know, my dear friends, the first time that when I met Mr. Bartholomeus Henri Velde, oh my God, such a big name, but just we call him Barth. So when we met first time, Mr. Barth, you know, Barth was observing, we met in international conference in Mexico for education and peace. And he was observing me laughing and smiling where everyone was speaking Mexican except Barth. And he asked me, do you understand Mexican? I said, no, I was just nodding head. Then he tried to translate for me in English, and it was such a kind gesture, such a great human being. For sure, those people who love music, we share our happiness, our sadness of our life with music, right? So such a legend here with us, who is going to connect our life with music, with happiness. So without wasting time, let me and Miss Brenda, my co-host, who is the super woman from UK, who is the founder and CEO of Brilliance, and she's the leadership coach. What should I tell? She's an excellent personality, master of all trades she is. So I'm so honored to have her with me today, and she's going to introduce our very special guest, Bartholomeus.
Yes.
Henri. Okay, then, Miss Brenda, the stage is yours.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. And Dr. Sharma, you've already said so much about Bard. And we agreed right at the start that we would call him Bard because, as you said, Bartholomeus Henri van de Velde is quite a lot to memorise. And I've got to say, Bard, your name begins with B, and that's brilliant because I'm a B too with Brenda. So it's just so wonderful. And that's what being part of the III family is all about. And here at Global TV, in the top 100 influencers. So Bart is, as you heard Dr. Sharma say, an orchestra conductor. And she's also talked about Bard being a change management expert. And we'll be finding out a little bit more about that. And he specialises in leadership development, changing perspectives, so important in today's world, particularly among teams. And also looking at how do you create value between teams and management in today's world. So from a violinist, he found his right place at home as an orchestra conductor, and later, as Dr. Sharma has already told us, an entrepreneur. And that makes it so exciting to use a rich experience for the betterment of others, and mixing music and business and entrepreneurship and leadership is such a wonderful thing. And Dr. Sharma said, brand ambassador for Rolex, Jaguar and BMW, to name but a few. And of course, You've travelled the world. It is fair to say you've been a conductor for many of the world's greatest orchestras, including the Hungarian Philharmonic Orchestra, Budapest National Orchestra of Mexico, and the Tulsa Symphony Orchestra in the USA. And also, you're a great influencer because you've worked with so many amazing people, people like Daniel Blumenthal, Anna Verdova, and Sabrina Vivian Hopker. So it's just our pleasure to have you here with us today. So you're very welcome, Bard.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be there. Thank you very much.
Very good. And before we dive right in, I think, in these kinds of chats, interviews, discussions, whatever you want to call these, we like to call them chats. And just leading into this, you're great at all these other things, but you revealed you're a bit of a culinary expert as well. Maybe that was Blumenthal's influence on you. So tell us a wee bit more about cooking and your love of cooking.
Well, to tell me, first of all, I want to tell you before I start that thanks to an organization, we meet each other. I think the organization is named UNICCC, and it's under the direction of the wonderful Dr. Jeanette Eureka Tiburcio. And thanks to her, actually, I never forget people who brought me somewhere, like Dr. Jeanette brought me. Thanks to her, we meet also each other, and we should not forget her. Also, thanks to her, for example, I became the president of Belgium of the 1,000 Mines for Mexico. Also, thanks to Jeanette. She's actually the person behind all this organization and that we can finally talk here. And then I come to your question, my cooking question. Actually, cooking is like conducting an orchestra a little bit. Because not once you have the same plate if you cook really, because you always add some salt or some pepper or some other sausage or whatever it is. And also depends for who are you cooking. And that's the same actually in art. And if you cook very well, you are educating yourself. And I'm so curious, for example, I'm not so special as you think, I'm only curious. Because today we live in a globalization world. And in globalization, that means that there are no borders anymore. That means as human beings, we have to be interested in other cultures. And if you're interested in other cultures, you discover so many things. Look to us three today. We are from 3 different cultures and we all smile. Isn't that fantastic? I find it fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And that's it. And this is what brings us together, that like-minded, those values. So this TV station is part of the brainchild of Dr. Sharma and the International Institute of Influencers. And that's what we want to talk a bit about today with you. How do you define what makes an influencer?
That's a very good question. Before you influence somebody or you influence a group, let's say, I think you have to influence yourself. Mm-hmm. You have, first of all, to influence yourself and not the others. And if you're influenced by yourself, then maybe you can try to influence somebody else or a group. But I would not call it influence somebody. I would call it more simple. I go always for the more simple things. I would say, I love to make people happy. And if you can make people making happy, then maybe you can call it later, you influence them to being happy.
Yes, absolutely. And that's it. And that's the power of a smile. A smile is the same in all languages, and it breaks down so many barriers. I know I use that myself. I'm going to pass over now to Dr. Sharma. I think she's got an interesting question for you now too. Thank you for your response.
My pleasure.
Yeah. My goodness, Miss Brenda, my goodness, what a sharp answers. And I'm listening for the first time. It's not influencing, it is making people happy. Wow. Lovely. Lovely, Bart. It's
Thank
lovely.
You.
And so today, whoever are listening to us, they'll be definitely knowing this, not influencing, making people happy. Done. So now the question. Mm-hmm. So, Bart, when do you think music really started influencing you? What is music for you?
music is sound. And all what I hear in the world where I am is for me music. It can have also difficult times because sometimes you hear noise. And noise isn't music. And through my music, I want to make the people sensitive. And by sensitivity, you make people more happy. Because how more sensible the people are, how more they can judge themselves what is good for them and what is not good for them. And I always try to make people feel that noise should be a beautiful sound. When you're surrounded by beautiful sounds, you become happy. One more thing, silence is also a sound. So to answer your question now directly, since when? Since I'm born.
Wow, this is amazing. That's why you are a legend. And today really we got it, Miss Brenda. Such a good definition. Music is sound.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. But I also loved that you saying silence is also sound. And funnily enough, we were talking about pausing and silence just yesterday at another event, Dr. Sharma and I, and to hear that same message come through from you talking about music, you know, music, it's in your veins, it's in your blood, you know, it's just one of those things that can lift your mood so much. So my question for you now is, can you share a moment from one of your concerts, events,
yes,
just a time when you felt that the music, I'm not going to use the word influence, but made your audience happy, it uplifted their spirit?
Well, that is actually my target. If you give me 2 minutes, I tell you in 2 minutes my life, actually. And I was very young, as a child. I didn't want to become a classical musician, but I wanted to be a rock star. And that was my dream. And why a rock star? Because I felt that rock stars, they could touch the people. I like to touch the people, but by music, by sound, not by blah, 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 but really by music, by sound. And, you know, if you conduct a concert, for example, I work in this sense that I could leave the stage and see from distance how happy the musicians are and the public. But then probably your question is, but how do you do that? Well, to be honest, I don't know sometimes how do I do that. But I try to feel, of course, I have to study. We all study. I study my tools. The tools are the music, are my conductor scores, the notes, the ideas of the composers. Of course, you have to study. Life is not something which you dream from the clouds and it comes automatically to you. No. You have to work. There are no miracles without working. The miracles come always by working and hard working and hard studying. And how more you study and how more you're interested in the world, in philosophy, in religion, in music, in art, in whatever it could be, how more you have connections with everybody. And how more you have connections, you create connections. How more you have connections, how everything gets more easy. Because what is actually intelligence? And we come to intelligence. People say, he studies a lot of philosophy, religion, mathematics, whatever. He must be an intelligent guy. No. I'm not intelligent. All these facts like studying creates a ground for you, a space for you to have a phantasm. So fantasy. And fantasy, that is for me intelligence. Because when you can create fantasy based on knowledge, not based on crazy things, but based on knowledge, then you get a kind of higher level of doing your music. And in music, everything is already written in the score, especially for classical music. Because my father pushed me to be a violin player. And after, I knew from the beginning that violin was not my end. I knew after the violin should be something else. And I always wanted to communicate with people. This is my dream, communicating with people, always communicating. But how do you communicate? And that's, maybe you study, yes, you study, but also you have to develop your feelings. And that is my dream. And I come back to my first answer. It's making people happy. How do I make people happy in a concert? Well, first of all, I studied the score very well. You have to feel where the composer has this little note where he makes a difference. You don't make difference by doing big things. The biggest difference in life is always in the very tiny, small detail. And this tiny, small detail that you have to search. I don't say it comes immediately. It comes one day. When this day is there, I don't know. But when I'm, as conductor, placed between public and orchestra, for example, I don't see my public because I'm always unpolite. I always turn my back to the people, which is not very polite. I have the most unpolite situation in my life is always the back to the audience. So, but I feel them. And when I do a concert, for example, and I feel that public is not attentive, I feel that immediately. Then in myself, I say, Bart, you're not doing well. Change the way you're conducting, change the way of your interpretation, change something. And this is a kind of feeling I cannot explain. But I conduct, I make music till I really feel my public and my musicians. That in between the both parts, I'm melting away. And when the public, the audience, and the orchestra or the musicians comes together, this is for me a really holy moment. And that's where the happiness happens. And then what happens in the public, if you have 100 people in the audience or thousands, whatever, each personality, each seat in the hall has another fantasy. Because they dream about something. Each note, each harmony from the orchestra, from the music sound, goes to each individual separately. And this separately individual will have a dream. And if you have 1,000 people and you play the same piece, you have 1,000 different dreams. Isn't that richness? I think this is very rich.
That is amazing, amazing. And you're right, because when you hear that sound, it can evoke a different emotion. It can take you back to a place that you've been before that's infused with emotion. Actually, in listening to your response, straight away I was thinking about, you spoke about communication, and great communication comes from great emotional intelligence. And you talked about feeling that. So I do believe that it's an alignment between you, the audience, and the orchestra, and you are the master because you bring that energy. You bring that energy. And
yes,
through Yeah.
But alone I'm nothing. Alone I'm nothing, because when I do this, you hear nothing. I do only wind. You hear nothing. So I need people. I need an orchestra. I need musicians.
Yes, and that's my point. My point is it's all that energy coming together. But in your brilliance, in one of my words I like to use, that energy comes through, and knowing when the energy is not quite right and you can make a slight adjustment, because I love what you said there as well about it being the small things. It's like that in life. It's the small things in life. It's important. It's not the big grand gestures. It's the small little things that make our hearts sing. So thank you very much. That was a wonderful answer. Thank you, Barb.
My pleasure.
Exactly, Ms. Brenda. But, I'm honestly completely missed by seeing your candid answers. We are getting emotional. Honestly.
Really?
So my question, yes, exactly. And I'm sure our audience as well. Okay. And my question right now is, when you have any concert, how do you bring out your emotions?
During the concert. During the concert.
Through?
During the concert or before the concert?
Oh, yeah, I think it's a good question. You have extended my question. So let's make it big now. During the concert as well as before the concert. Miss, what do you think as a music conductor? The emotions, like an examination hall, if we go, we'll be having lots of emotions, fear, anxiety, lots of. So as a music conductor, what are your emotions? Is it, means just we want to know from you.
You want to know all my secrets?
Yes.
We want to spill the beans.
Yes, I feel. It's a good question, but it's not easy to answer. First of all, I want to say something, because sometimes we have the reputation that as artists, we are a little bit foolish, we dream a lot, and our head is in the clouds, which is not true. Even one few weeks before, I was listening to a conference from a politician, I'm not going to name him, but he was saying in his big speech that he started with music about the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, and then he says that the artists are in the sky and they are not the 2 feet on the ground. So then I asked him one question. How do you think that Beethoven wrote the Ninth Symphony? With his head in the cloud? Really? If you want, I will explain you the score of the Ninth Symphony by Beethoven, and you will see it's a hard work. It's a very hard work to write music. For example, a violin player, how to stay alone on the stage playing violin, these tiny fingers and this bow and 4 strings, and making all these fast movements, and at the same time making an emotion. This is hard work. The kid starts from 4 or 5 years young till 20 years. Who is studying at least 15 years to do his profession on a stage alone with a big responsibility? I don't think that many people have this profession like that. And that is sometimes underestimated. So what I mean is it's really hard work. You can compare, for example, a football player. I don't think he will use his muscles 15 years because he plays after 5 years already in big national teams. And I don't speak about the money they get to compare with an artist. So you know that. So I always defend the art. I'm not jealous. Jealousy is an illness which I don't have. So I'm not jealous. It's a very bad illness, by the way. But how do I come to this sensitivity? Well, it's studying. Sensitivity or emotion doesn't come like this. Of course, there is emotion and there is emotion. Now, let's call it very simple. There is cheap emotion and there is a high-level emotion. So let's discuss about a high-level emotion. I don't cheap emotion is not our interest. But you have everything in the world, I know. But let's say it's high-level emotion. What is actually high-level emotion? How can I bring in the music emotion? It's not only forte, playing loud, and playing piano, playing soft. You have to know, for example, a little detail, technical detail. Mozart, everybody knows Mozart. He never wrote in his scores a crescendo or diminuendo. Never. Only forte and piano, and that's it. He became one of the greatest composers in the world, on the globe. Everybody knows Mozart. But why he never wrote that? Because he thought, it's my opinion, that we as human beings, we were clever. We would know when we have to put the emotion in this music, and we should know how to play. And that comes from education. Everything starts in education. You cannot become all of a sudden a great artist. You cannot become all of a sudden somebody important or whatever, name it what you want. Education is so important. And that's one of the things I always fight for. Start in the early years of a kid with art education. They don't need to become all a big artist. That's not necessary. Well, they become probably intelligent, emotional. And intelligent, emotional, of emotional intelligence is better, is so important in life because you can kind of, I don't say control, but you can kind of guide it. We have to guide ourselves all the time. So my emotion comes more from guiding the orchestra. It's not because there is a crescendo that I can put emotion in orchestra A, B, or C in the same way. I have to feel the people. And once I feel the people, I know what I can do with them. But first, you have to make a kind of organization, a cadre, we say in French, a square. Not that it's nothing to do with military square. It has to do with the form. How is made a piece? How is everything constructed? And if you know the construction, then you can walk in that construction. But you cannot walk without a construction. You cannot go from one mountain to the other mountain without a bridge. Of course, you can go downstairs and upstairs, but you want to connect. So you can connect mountains. You can connect mountains by a bridge. Actually, in the music world, the word bridge is also connecting. It exists technical. So, and if you know all these structures, how a composer writes, then you start to think and to dream. I tell you, sometimes I know I study, depends the difficulty of the piece. I study long time, a big piece, sometimes 1 year, sometimes 6 months before I go with the composition on stage. And sometimes if I know my score, I take my score and I walk in the city with my score under my arm. And I walk between the people. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy, but I think some people will they give me some ideas. Through my score, I've under my arm. I even sleep with my score. I do everything with my score. I read it like this, I read it like that, and I read it upside down and whatever. But I want to know everything about it. And once you know everything, then all of a sudden, something comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
To give you an example, everybody plays Beethoven 5th Symphony, ta-ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ti. I don't do it like that. And I tell you why. Because I think, and I dreamed about Beethoven, and I analyzed this score that he wanted to mention, pa-pa-pa-pi, in pam, 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 pam. That's a wake-up call. But of course, everybody puts metronome tempo, the right tempo of the piece. But why did he do that? Because, you know, I read once in a book, the reason why he wrote that metronome is actually the speed to play the piece fast or slow. He wrote that for the people who couldn't read his score, that at least they play in a certain tempo, which is about good. So to what I come now, if you know very well the score, if you know very well the material, then you can put some fantasy in it. And this fantasy is for each person different. And then I come again to richness. For example, if you study conducting and you study actually how to do this, we have the same score. But maybe you feel it a little bit faster. And you feel it a little bit slower, but still you're doing doing the same notes. But the piece sounds differently. Isn't that fantastic? Of course, you have to do it in a way that is acceptable. And that acceptable way, you have to discover. You have to have a relationship with the composer. Even he's already 300 years dead, but you need a relationship with the composer. And this relationship you can find by reading between the notes. And this takes time. But I tell you, when you found it, it gives you such a feeling of happiness. And this I cannot describe. I know when this moment comes, sometimes you study, but you know it, but there is nothing surplus. Nothing comes. You know the score and you study day by day, but you don't feel it. And then all of a sudden there comes a moment like a click, and that's it. And when this click is there, well, I cannot guarantee you. I'm not a computer. And luckily, I'm not a computer. We are lucky we have a computer to talk and to communicate. But we as human beings, we are not a computer. And this click, you have to study. And study, I don't mean to program it. Try to open your heart, your soul with knowledge and art. And then you have this emotional comes automatically. You should not act emotionally intelligent. You should study emotional intelligence, but not act.
Great. Miss, we wish to see you playing live. I don't know when we'll get this opportunity, Mr. Barth. Trust me.
I can come wherever you want.
Yes, definitely. We'd love to. But love, I think Miss Brenda is next to you only. She's in UK. I'm in Oman. I'm a bit far. She's next to you almost. She's nearby. But definitely, it's my wish to see you, to watch you playing and pass out through these wonderful emotions that you have said, and influencing, not influencing, happy, making happy.
Making
so
happy.
Next, I'll start using this. I'm not influencing, I'm making people happy. Over to you, Miss Brenda.
But actually, Dr. Sharma, I do want to say something, because you always say it's about making people happy. It's education and making people happy and influence. So it's education, influence, and happiness. So we've got it all. We've got it all. It's quite easy for things to slip out. I love what you said there, Bard, about between the notes, reading between the notes. You know, yes. Sometimes it's like reading between the lines as well.
Yes, exactly the same thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
You read a book and you read very carefully the words, but you don't understand. And sometimes if you read between the lines where it's nothing, then you understand. And that's also very important in music. Sometimes composers use silence in the score.
Yeah.
And that's the moment you need to make a breath and think. And always make metaphors. Always make a metaphor. Always compare. Always make a metaphor.
Oh, I love metaphors.
Put words on the music. If you hear a music, normally it's the opposite. Normally it's a text like the opera. Normally you write a text, and on the text they put music. But try to do once vice versa. It's difficult, you know. In your life you hear the most beautiful melody. I ask sometimes people, now this melody, say it in words. And you will discover that today the young people cannot do it anymore because they read less, because they watch screens. Everything is pre-programmed today. Of course, there are still people who make all these things, which is fantastic. I don't say it's computer and IT is bad. I don't say that. But putting in words, in vocabulary, what you hear, what you feel is not always easy. It's easy to say, I'm happy, or to say, I'm in a bad mood. But why are you in a bad mood? Explain it. Why you're happy? Explain it. And this is one step higher. And that we learn again in education with art.
Absolutely. Explanation is one of those higher order thinking skills, and not everybody can explain clearly. That's for sure. So now I want to know, and I'm sure the audience wants to know, which composer makes you the happiest and why?
Good ones.
So let's look at the masters, because you've mentioned a few already. Mozart, Candid, Tchaikovsky, and there are a few more. So which composer do you love to study? Does it just get you in your soul and you think, yes, I'm going to interpret this and I'm going to create magic with the orchestra for the audience?
Well, I will try to give you an answer which is interesting. Imagine this is a score. When I have a score, what I do mostly is like this. And from the first view, you see already a little bit, it's interesting or not interesting, in the escritura, how they write it. That's the first step, when you see a score. Now, the next step, you go more in detail. And sometimes you feel like, oof, this score, this music gives me special feelings. Sometimes not, but that's not a reason to study it. Because sometimes they ask me to conduct concerts and I have to conduct pieces which maybe in the beginning I don't feel so much for it. But after studying, the feeling comes. You know, when I was young, one of my violin professors answered me once. I had to study a violin concerto, which I didn't like. And of course, I was young. I was about 17 years old. And I say to my professor, I don't like this concerto. I don't like to study it. It's not beautiful. What do you think was his answer to me? Did he answer, yes, Bart, I understand, so forget it because you don't like? No. He told me, first, try to play it. And after you can play it, make then a judgment if you like it or you don't like it. But don't make a quick judgment. That's not only a rule for the music or for a score, but that's also a rule for the humanity in the world.
Absolutely. Don't judge a book by its cover. And first impressions aren't always the lasting impression. That is for sure. Yes, but that was quite a different answer I got there.
Yes, I know.
I think I understand where you're coming from. I think you can take something out of everything. I think that's what you're trying to tell me. And all pieces can make you happy when you look between the notes.
Yes, well, I tell you honestly, our repertoire in the music world, for example, and I think it's the same for literature or for painting, whatever art it is. I think life is too short to know everything. I need a second life. I really need a second life for all the music I want to conduct in my life. But I tell you one thing, dream a lot. You should never forget to dream. All my life, I dreamed. And I tell you one truth, and I'm not lying. I tell you really the truth. I dreamed in my life about many big pieces I love to conduct. Till now, they became all true. All.
Yeah.
So I keep dreaming. There are still pieces I want to conduct. My life is not yet finished. I hope still 100 years. But
Amen.
But I really do hope. And for example, I did Requiem Verde. I was dreaming of that piece. I did it. One day somebody came to ask me, but don't dream 100%. Dream 200% always.
Yes.
Because 100% is not enough. And then one day it will come. For example, that's also the story with Janette. Janette met me and we met each other together, but we dreamed together. We dreamed together many things. I don't say everything will be successful, but many things taking advantage and many things they go on the road. That's also the reason we meet each other, because we dreamed. We dreamed about education. We dreamed about art. We dreamed together, always going ahead. And by the way, I have to thank Mexico, because it's also thanks to Mexico I meet you all here. I am from Brussels, Belgium.
Yes.
But Mexico gave me so many things, and thanks to Mexico, I go around the world. So for me, Mexico is the future.
Wonderful.
And Janette is there a big part in it, in all these education forms and all these developments of organizing all these meetings around the world. And she uses the IT world so well for this, because we could never do this without streaming.
No.
And I'm sure one day we will meet. I'm sure of that. Because good spirits, they meet each other always. There's no secret. You still don't have the answer for the composers, huh?
No, it doesn't matter though. We'll get it.
Well, I will give you one thing. You have a beautiful first name. Dr. Shema also, but we have B's. Bart is B, Brenda is B. So if you name composers with B, I like them a lot. Bach, Beethoven, Bruckner.
I love all words that begin with B, more or less. That's why brilliance is the word. I'm blessed. Okay, Dr. Sham, I think it's your question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brenda. And Bart, you have motivated me like anything by saying that dream, not just 100%, but 200%.
Yes.
I always believe that sometimes in life certain challenges come where people leave you, people deceive you, people cheat you. There are so many things come. Then we feel, is it wrong to dream? We feel like giving up. But now means, yes, there are so many people, youngsters especially, they feel like giving up. And you have given a message to everyone, not just dream 100%, but dream 200%.
Yes.
Trust me, it's our efforts. We don't need to think about the result. Just we need to dream, we need to work, we need to hard. Thank you, Bart. It's amazing. I will definitely carry this back. This is a wonderful message from you and a wonderful question as well now coming on the line to you. So, Mark, I just want to ask one small question, very fast question, quick question, that how do you relate your profession to influencing and also as a leader? Do you consider yourself as a leader? And I mean, in between these three, I mean to say, profession, your profession, influencing, and leadership.
Well, I'm going to be if your question was not that short. First of all, I don't call my life a profession. I call my life more as a kind of religion. Being an artist is not a profession, it's a religion. It's a profession for me is what? A profession is working from, sorry if I hurt some people, I apologize already, but I have to make a kind of metaphor to explain, that's all. It's not a judgment and it's not a critic neither. I call more a profession and it's needed in the world. I'm aware of this, but everybody has his place in the world too. So I call a profession somebody who works from 8 till 4. That's for me a profession. At 4 o'clock, he closes the door, goes to the family or whatever, and does something else. We as artists, let's say, I prefer to tell artists more, we actually never close the door. If you close the door, it's finished for us. You cannot close the door or study a score and say, now I study a score from 9 till 2, and then I will do something else. Of course, you will do something else, but in the same time, backwards in your head, this score is always coming with you. The music follows you. It follows you all the time. Each step you do, you have to walk music. Sometimes in coaching, they say, walk the talk. So it's same with music. You have to walk the music. You have to kind of fly everywhere over. If you ask me, which animal do you like the most? Well, the birds. Why the birds? Because they fly everywhere over. And which bird you like the most? The eagle. Why the eagle? Because he has 2 meters of wings and he flies everywhere and he sees everything. And then you capture everything to you. And once you have this, again, knowledge, then you can fly everywhere. If you know the score very well, you can fly. You know why I came? The people call me a change expert management. It's a nice title, but I don't like this title. But you know how it came to that, actually. It came from the music. You know, when I made my orchestra, I made an orchestra 17 years by only private sponsoring. How do you have to make that? It's not easy, you know. I didn't count on the government. I did everything myself with a little help of many people. But I had to go to companies. I had to talk to companies. So I had to explain companies what I'm doing and how I'm doing. And then I invited companies to come to my rehearsals and to my concerts. And I always let them come to the first rehearsal and to the concert, so they could hear the difference very clearly. And then they started to, first of all, they sent 5 people, then came 10 people, and at least the whole company came to listen because people were interested. And they became more and more interested, what is a conductor doing in front of an orchestra? And they found out that actually, well, he's kind of working the same as we are doing. There's a kind of hierarchy in the orchestra. There are different voices. In the harmony, you have soprano, alto, tenor, bass, that are other colors. In a company, you have the same. You have the man of the concierge, you have the man of the first floor, of the second floor. You have all different responsibilities. Well, in music, it's the same. Each note has another responsibility. Each harmony is different. They are connected, not connected, well connected, faster, slower. So many possibilities. Only the language is different. My language is music. And that's how I came more and more in the society of business people. And I explained them how to manage an orchestra. And that's how it came to other business people. And they asked me, why you are like that? And sometimes, for example, if you have a man, for example, in the violin sections, there is first and second violin. Sometimes it doesn't sound. Sometimes it's only one person changing to the other group, and all of a sudden it opens. It's the same in a business. Sometimes a person is on the wrong place. Like they say, the wrong place, the wrong timing. If you are on the wrong place, on the wrong timing, your life is a disaster. You have to be on the right place on the right time always. Of course, they will tell me, it's easy to say, Mr. Bart. Yes, it's easy to say. I know. But you have to dream that. You have to work for that. You have to look. Happiness doesn't fall from the sky. Happiness, you have to work for it. Luck doesn't fall from the sky. Luck, you have to work for it. And if you work for that, then you can change. You can then influence people, but make people happy. If you're a leader, what is the most important for a leader? Is to make your people happy in a good condition, not making yourself happy. A leader suffers mostly, but he makes people happy. What we are suffering, we keep for ourselves. We have our happy moments on the end, but first you have to give to others. Now, when you give to the people, you receive.
Absolutely.
One American president said, it's done by the people, for the people. And that you should never forget.
Exactly, Bart. Exactly what Miss Brenda was asking. Now we are going to have two questions for you from me and Miss Brenda. Miss Brenda, over to you. Very tough questions coming up.
Oh, okay. So what I would like to know, and I think this would help many people watching, today we hear the word brand a lot and personal branding. What tips would you give to someone to build that personal brand that will make them a great leader, influencer, and someone who makes other people happy?
You have difficult questions, you know. You can branding yourself. Well, these days, for example, I see that in the young people, they study for engineer or architect, and immediately they want to have a director position. I don't believe in things they come in, like immediately you're a director. Life is an experience. For example, all my ideas come from the music world, you know. Everybody knows Beethoven in the world. When I was younger, I read the score of the Symphony of Beethoven. So many, many years later, I read the same score. The score never changed because Beethoven is already 300 years dead. And I'm not yet 300 years old. I wish I had come. But the distance between these 2 points, A and B, reading the score when you are young and reading the same score, the same notes, the same harmonies on a later age, that this difference is enormous. Then the question comes, but I'm reading the same book. Why I see it differently? And that calls life experience. And life experience, you have to learn. You have to develop. You have to discover that. You cannot immediately study very hard and put B there in the front of A. It doesn't go. That's the reason there is an alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. Also, the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 13, 15. No, it has the order. So life's in a certain way the same. You know, when I was young, I played violin. I played in the opera violin. I was singing the choir of the opera. I knew in myself. Maybe I go too fast. When I was 18, you know where I put my vacations? I was in the library. I was reading Nietzsche and Hegel. I was all the time reading philosophy. But why I was doing this? Because deep inside, Nietzsche wrote that if you really think deep in yourself, you know where you want to go in your life. But today, people have less and less patience because of this machine also, where you're using now. Because they sell dreams. Listen what I say. They sell dreams. But 3 minutes ago, I said you have to dream 200%. You should not buy dreams. You should dream your dream for 200%. And these steps, you have to start from A. Then I was playing. Then I became a violin. I went to a better school. I became a professional violinist player. I went to a professional orchestra. But still this leadership, this conducting was in my blood. You speak always where the blood goes. That means you go to people you're born with some elements, some charisma, some chromosomes, with some chemical points you're born with. And these chemical points, these neurons, you have to use in the best way. And for each person, it's different. I received this character. Well, I have to follow that. And I go, and then you meet these kind of people. I don't know if you know the film Zorro. In the second film of Zorro, Father Zorro speaks about a circle. Yeah. First, you have the small circle. You have to make your circle bigger. And you make that bigger by what? By experience. Only experience, not by diplomas. No. Of course, diplomas are important. I'm not saying it's not good, but your circle. And this you can only make bigger by thinking in a philosophical way. You can make it bigger by putting art in your education. And this circle becomes almost bigger, always bigger. And I say always try to speak with people who are interesting for you. And the world is so big. There are many levels, many different levels. So each person is like the planes. The cars on the ground and the planes, they fly like this. So in humanity is exactly the same. There are people there needed, and they're needed, and they're needed. Everybody has a place in the world. And you have to do that with respect. And if you do that with respect, then actually you're branding yourself. And then you're also branding the other people. But you have to start by all these steps. And not all of a sudden, I'm a master in this, so I need to be a director immediately. I think you have to listen to yourself. You have to become sensitive, emotional intelligence. And if you have that, you develop your life like crazy. And then you can maybe become a leader. You know, when I started to conduct, I was awful. I was completely awful. The people teach me how to be. And I listened to the people. And I became more and more and more to smile. And I became more and more happy. And then I went to Mexico all of a sudden. I didn't know Mexico. I tell you honestly, they invited me there. But Mexico gave me so much. That's the reason I speak so much about Mexico. This country gave me a lot. And now all my experience, I want to give back to them because I'm thankful to them. Yeah. When Jeanette came on my road, this was a discovery. You couldn't imagine. And see, now we meet also. Thanks to her, thanks to all these connections. Isn't this fantastic? This is also branding.
Yes. Janet is playing a very big role, but honestly, I respect her. She's like my friend and sis. And we all together will make a big difference as a change makers, definitely. And yes. Before we proceed to the next question, yes. My dear friends, I just want to announce the winner of the last quiz. Last quiz winner is Miss Rajashri Jain. Miss Rajashri Jain, she is the winner for the first quiz of our 100 top global influencers. She is going to get a wonderful certificate with lots of endorsements. We are going to publish tomorrow the result. And today also we are going to announce the quiz. The quiz question is, what did Mr. Barth described influencers? Miss, what is the one? He used one word, not influencers, but he said something. Watch the interview again and come back to us, write the reply. You are going to be selected, and in the next week, we are announcing your names. So what is the synonyms? I can use the word synonyms, Mr. Barth?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Okay. The synonym for influencer. So whoever will be answering the best, the lucky winner's name will be announced next week. So the last and final question before we end up, to Barth, what is the message to all the wonderful audience sitting over here and ready to be influenced with you? Please, a wonderful message for all the wonderful people sitting before you, watching you, and trying to learn from you.
2 words.
Oh my God, very short.
Be happy.
Yes.
Be happy.
What can I say more?
Yeah.
All what you do, you should make people happy, respectful,
Absolutely.
in a nice way. And listen to the silence. Silence tell you so many things. You know, when I have a problem, you know what I do? When I have a problem, I go out and I go to the nature and I speak to the trees. I don't even speak to the trees. They speak to me.
Can I just say something quickly there?
Yes, of course.
Have you ever listened to a tree through a stethoscope?
No, not yet.
Or you have to do it, because
Really?
I'm sure you have to do it, and the sound will create something magical in your mind, in your creative mind, and I'm sure you'll find the right notes, the right instrument to replicate the sound you hear when you put a stethoscope on the trunk of a tree. It is absolutely, it's one of those moments that does make you a bit emotional. Absolutely.
And let me tell you one thing. That's true what you say. Let me tell you one thing. Light, because people say always, sometimes I have to reorganize my head. People say always like, but there are many problems. But be lucky there are problems. Because otherwise there are no solutions. We need a problem for a solution. So
that's how minds grow.
Yes, but make it simple and make it visible, and then you have a solution. So if you have a problem, find a way for a solution, because otherwise we have only problems, and that's not nice in the world. So problems are needed for solutions. And about sound, without the sound of the tree, one more thing is light, for example, has also a sound.
Oh, yes.
You can't imagine. Light has a sound, and I'm praying to composers, because we have the system in classical music, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do.
Yeah.
Now I may be influencing. Now I can use maybe the word influencing. Finally.
Finally.
I'm glad I mentioned the tree.
Yes, the tree. But I pray for composers, listen to the sound of the light and make a language with that the music world has a new tool to play with. Because light is going very, very fast. Light moves amazing.
Yes.
Particularly light, it's our earth is moving, it's turning. But it's turning on that speed. You can't imagine how fast they go. Luckily, we don't fall on the ground each time, but, but it's turning. And if we combine the sound of light with something, I think we will discover a new language. And wouldn't it be that fantastic to discover a new language? We have already so many languages, but never enough. But a language to make people again happy.
Absolutely. And to enlightenment, Bart.
Yes.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Bart. Thank you. And we need your wishes for our organization, International Institute of Influencers. We are trying to spread the ripples of happiness, ripples of influence, happiness, accountability, core values. These are our core values: integrity, leadership, emotional intelligence. We want to bring out that happiness factor in the world. So we need all your best wishes, all the time.
Thank you for inviting me, and thanks to Jeanette Eureka Tiburcio that she brought us together. And you're wonderful people.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Brenda, for this wonderful time. And I'm sure me and Ms. Brenda, we both had wonderful time with you.
Likewise.
Bart and everyone watching over, they had a wonderful time. I'm seeing the chats coming up here. So lots of chats coming up, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Bart, once again. With a wonderful smile. Big thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.